from the backyard. How's it going, guys? Just doing a quick solo video here today, talking about knife sharpening. Something the longtime viewers of the channel will know that I used to do a lot of. Okay, talking about, well, I really got into sharpening probably about a decade ago. I first learned with the freehand and kind of got to know that pretty quick, and then I moved on to the manual setups, the manual systems. I'll talk about that in a little bit. The one thing that I want to I guess get across to our viewers, to our EDC enthusiasts, and anybody else out there who clicks on the video, I guess just the one message that I really want to get across with this. I found this today, this little device here. I think it was in a battle box that we'd gotten months ago, maybe years ago, and I never opened it. We've had these little tools before, and you know, we've used them, I guess, just here and there for fun, just to kind of laugh at, I guess, almost. But so it's these little pull-through manual sharpeners, knife sharpeners. Okay, you set your blade in there and you pull back, and you do this repeatedly as many times as you need to get a sharp edge, to get the correct kind of edge that you want. And then they've got coarse and a fine, so you see the two. And this is pretty typical for these types of handheld pull-through devices. And actually this one has a honing rod down at the end. Never actually opened this one. Oh look, this one even has a whistle. It's an emergency whistle on the back. Yeah, this they probably cost less than $10, these things. But when we're talking to the EDC enthusiasts out there, which a lot of you who clicked on this video are, when you spend decent money on your EDC knives, your everyday carry knives, and yeah, you kind of like them, and maybe you have more than a few really good ones that you like, you don't want to be using these, okay? And yeah, for a few different reasons. Well, I guess that's the message I mostly want to get across. But real quick, I have a lot of sharpening experience, and yeah, like I said, this was probably about a decade ago that I got into it and did the freehand. I got into the manual systems, the manual setups. So this here, that's the KME, and I did a lot of videos with this, and I've done a lot of edges. I did some how-to specifically with the KME. We used to do the analysis, the microscope analysis before and after. That was really fun. And then we also did the sharpness tester, the sharpness testing, rather than more than just, you know, hair shaving sharp, right, that you might do. This is the certified sharpness tester. Okay, there's a little string set up, and you drop your blade down gently on it, and it will measure the actual force necessary to cut that string. They're really cool. But yeah, I was quite the enthusiast with the sharpening, and yeah, I know a lot of you are too. But I got away from it. I kind of got a lot away from a lot of things on the channel as far as knives go. You guys can see those recent videos with that, just kind of lost motivation. But for maybe a couple, 2 or 3 reasons, I got away from sharpening. Well, one of them is because I just got lazy, right? And I think one of the reasons is we collected too many knives on the channel, right? We just get too many knives, and we've got so many to look at. We're never using the same knife that much anymore these days, so we're never creating a dull edge, right? So sometimes we'll still go out of the way to say, okay, let's just keep using this edge, keep using it hard, more and more cardboard, more and more plastic, what have you got, let's cut, and you know, to dull an edge. We'll still do that for fun, but yeah, we just get so many knives these days. We don't, you know, we never cut enough with the same blade. And then with that as well, there's the blade steels that we have these days are so good. They don't dull all that easily, right? So yeah, there's not been a need as much to sharpen, okay? With kitchen knives, yes, I have still done some sharpening with kitchen knives, but even then I got lazy. I wasn't using the manual setups. I'll show you kind of what I've done with the kitchen knives a little bit, but yeah, I kind of got lazy. I have use some of these pull-through devices with kitchen knives. Still don't recommend it, but yeah. What else? Yeah, that's mostly it. With these devices here, so these little handheld garbage pieces of trash, you can actually end up taking what you might consider a dull edge on one of your EDC knives. Okay, here, I'll even use this. We've been talking about these a lot lately. This is the Ozark Trail Sonder. All right, this is Ozark Trail or Walmart. It's their best EDC knife yet. I think many will agree. And yeah, they come with D2 steel, $10. See those videos. And the edge, you know what, I didn't bring any paper out here, but it's paper cutting sharp. Something you just didn't see a decade ago, or you know, even that long ago. We've gotten really spoiled with our edges. The factory edges these days are decent, and they're consistently good from knife to knife. We'll still check them, and I'll still be like, okay, how's that edge? Maybe it, you know, doesn't meet my personal standards, you know, but even then it's what most people would consider sharp, right? So yeah, just haven't been sharpening as much for a variety of reasons. I want to get back into it. What do you guys think? We're going to do some more, you know, just kind of here, join us. We'll go before and after. Maybe we'll do some of the microscope analysis. Maybe we'll do the sharpness testing again. With these devices, okay, they're a fixed angle sharpener, fixed angle sharpening setup. So the V, you pull your knife through, you pull your edge through as straight as possible. These, I believe, are going to be around 25 degrees, okay? And with that, it's going to be the kind of a one-size-fits-all angle. That's going to do, it's supposed to do your kitchen knives, your EDC knives, utility knives, anything, you name it. And I don't want that. For my kitchen knives, I want a really shallow angle, not very steep, you know, and that's because they don't need to, they need to do a lot of slicing in the kitchen. The type of steel, everything considered, they can be even sharper, and they just don't get trashed on as much as your EDC knife might, right? You might want some more toughness out of your EDC knife. So with that, you might do a steeper angle. But even then, something like this at 25 degrees, for me anyway, with the type of steels these days, it's too much. I want to go shallower than that. So you can take a knife. Here's a Spyderco, talking about 10 years old, 10 years ago. This is one of my favorites, the Manix 2 Lightweight. This is actually an S110V, so a very hard steel. I'm not even sure if Spyderco is still using S110V or not, but or if it's even used that much in the knife world at all lately. I know they still use S190, but yeah, one of my favorites. It's been used a lot. I've probably sharpened this at least 3 times, and I've dulled the knife, I think probably at least once intentionally to dull it for, you know, for demonstration before and after type purposes. But yeah, I believe if I looked at this one, it's pretty sharp. I probably sharpened this and then left it. I never used it again. I just didn't use it as much as I had used it previously. It was a very popular knife. But where was I going with that? Even with a knife like this, I don't want a 25 degree angle on there, that this is supposed to be this one size fits all. So if I were to run this knife right now through this sharpener, I would actually end up with a duller edge. I'd go through the coarse and then the fine, and then there's even a little polishing rod there. I would end up with a knife that's dull, that's more dull than before, than when I had started. And you could check that with paper, you could check that you'd see the little microscopic imperfections. And you can do that with a lot of edges, with a lot of blades these days. Your standards might be high, you know, you're feeling like, no, that's kind of snagging through that paper. It's not as hair shaving sharp as you want it to be as they come from the factory, or as you can get it. And maybe you want to keep it that way. You're going to use something like this, it's going to be worse off, right? This is an emergency, cheap, somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, worst dull blades you can get. You could probably improve something like that, but you guys that are watching this video, you don't want to use them. Yeah. But kind of back to this channel, I want to get into the sharpening again a lot, and this is what I've done the most with, right? So I showed you the KME, and it's got, so you put your knife or your blade on this side and you use the rod, okay, which will have the different stones. All right, and what's neat about KME, they come with a lot of accessories. So this is a fine grit. I don't have all the different coarseness out here, but here's extra fine at 1500. You don't see these on the really cheap sharpening systems, but or sharpening devices, I guess. But yeah, there's a lot of these different types of sharpeners out there. This is a manual setup. This is not considered freehand, but yeah, you run the stone over top of your edge, then you flip, and you do the other side, and you flip, and the other side. Yeah. I was gonna say see my original videos with those, but they don't exist anymore. Long story, right? But so what are we gonna do now? I have one of these. I had never really tried the electric sharpener setups, and I finally, we did get one of these in a battle box, right? You guys know what battle box is. They send you different types of gear, some fun stuff. You never know what you're gonna get. And there's usually a knife, but then there's knife accessories, then there's camping accessories. It's just kind of a mystery pack, and they're fun. We got one of these in a while back, and I'd never really used the electric sharpeners before. This one, I looked it up. They cost $60, so they're fairly inexpensive, right? They're only one speed, it's on or off. These are, I believe these are 25 degrees as well, non-adjustable. So it's gonna be that sort of, like I say, like that one size fits all angle. And you set your blade in, you rest it against the side here. You drop down slowly as the belt is spinning, as it's on. And when you make contact with the belt fully, you begin to pull back, and you keep the same speed as you go through, and you go one side and to the other side, back and forth. The belt that comes with these is fairly coarse. Okay, yeah, it's fairly coarse. Yeah, so I use these, not really a good option. Again, you can create a knife that's, even on your Ozark Trail D2, right, you can create an edge that's worse off than when you started, depending on how dull you were to begin with, right? So yeah, I wouldn't recommend these. I didn't like the electric sharpeners at all, based on what that is. Just for fun though, we got a really good deal on this. I am gonna try a better sharpener, a better electric setup from Worksharp. So this one is an upgrade. I've watched a little bit about this. All right, variable speeds. You can adjust the angles. Okay, so that's really important. I'm gonna do shallower angles, right, like I talked about. And you can, I think they actually even come with the different grit belts that you can really easily change, okay? And there's some other reasons, but these are just considered a lot better. So I'll try that for fun. I've already watched a lot of the videos on it. I know that's gonna be an upgrade from something like this. For the enthusiasts, you should probably spend a little bit of time learning how to sharpen. There's a ton out there, and it's fun. Like, just try it. Find a knife. Start with a knife that you don't care as much about. You've probably got some dull kitchen knives that constantly get abused and that really need an edge, or it's something that you don't care about if you mess up on. And yeah, if it's ideal to learn freehand, but you can learn a ton about it here on YouTube, and it's fun. Once you start, you'll get, you get the hang of it, and you'll start using your your enthusiast EDC, everyday carry knives. So here's one. This is a Civivi. This is the Altair, I think it is. Big old Tanto on this. So this is that, well, with the Tanto, I got this one out for fun. This is my least favorite to sharpen. They're just kind of a pain. It's like you're sharpening two different knives at the same time, and you're constantly, well, depending on your method, you're constantly adjusting between the two. But yeah, just for fun. This is that 14C28N steel that they do a lot of. This is kind of a, well, it's a decent steel for the money, right? We were talking about D2. D2 holds its edge fairly well. 14C28N, it's probably gonna hold its edge just as nicely, just as well as D2. And at the same time, it's gonna be stainless, which D2 is not stainless. So yeah, just some topics for conversation about sharpening. Definitely leave your comments. Those of you out there who missed the sharpening videos, the old stuff that we used to have on this video, I think we're gonna get back into it a little bit. And yeah, we'll do some of the close-ups, the before and after, the extremes, that kind of thing. But so I don't like the 25-degree angles that you get from most of this stuff. And then the coarseness, the actual grit on those is usually, well, maybe I forgot to mention that too. So the coarse, all right here that you start on to the fine, it's usually too big of a jump, right? So you go your coarse setting and maybe you get a kind of edge where you can actually cut with, and it's okay, and then you want to switch to the fine. It's usually too big of a jump, and I'm probably picky with that, but something like the KME is a good example. They have all these progressions between. They have extra coarse, but even before that, they have a stone called the Beast. But yeah, then they have coarse and rough, and then fine, or medium, fine, ultra fine, and then there's just all these progressions of the different grit. And I mean, without knowing what these specifically are, they're usually too big of a jump. You want something between that. And then the little honing rod, you'd really just have to spend all day trying to get the edge you want on this, and even then you're gonna have to regrind the edge using your coarse setting on there, and then you're just not gonna like the end result, are you? So all right, well, let's hear from you guys. I want to see some comments about the experienced sharpeners. I'm gonna get back into it. I even wish I could go back and watch my own videos, because I know I had some good stuff out there, but I'll get used to it again. I'll get familiar, and it's fun. I've already started looking into, I want to see how these work, right? This is the Ken Onion. This is the Mark II. Okay. It's for an electric sharpener, it's definitely one of the higher rated, the kind that an EDC enthusiast wants to use for his pocket knives. So yeah, I want to try that out and see. So okay, I think that's everything. Don't use the pull-through sharpeners. If you do, let us know. Leave your comments. All right, make sure to subscribe, follow us on Instagram, all that YouTube stuff. All right, thanks a lot for joining us. Me, Frankie, will be back in the next one.